Tommy Boyds now. 0171 412 1152.
Gay men, young gay men. Let's talk about young gay men and women. At 8:20 this morning, we got the news that the EU has declared the British ban on homosexuals in the armed forces, the army, illegal. 0171 412 1152. We talked to a number of pressure groups who welcomed the pressure that was being applied to our military by Europe in this issue. We didn't get much of a chance to talk about the view of the ordinary squaddy, the ordinary young bloke who is asked to train and possibly fight and die for Queen and country. 0171 412 1152. Now, it could be that the generals will say that there could be some serious military implication if a tension continued to exist between heterosexual and openly homosexual soldiers in times of combat. That is an argument that I wouldn't be able to deal with. Perhaps you might. I'm not an expert on strategy or warfare. Have you seen that latest recruitment advert for the army where they say that nearly all the battles in living memory fought and won by the Allies, i.e. us, were fought at night? Sorry, it just crossed my mind because I saw it yesterday. But one thing that we are entitled to comment is the view of what's called the man in the street, because it's the man in the street who joins the army, and it's the man in the street who's billeted 24 or 12 to a billet, whatever, with other young men of his age, or in the case of women, you have the young women of their age. And it seems to me that their views are as important on this one as the generals. 0171 412 1152. There are those who will fix straight on the issue of this, as far as this news story is concerned. They'll fix on the issue of European involvement. And again, if you feel perhaps that this is Europe showing us the way to a better future, why can't we work something like this out for ourselves? 0171 412 1152. There will always be those who believe that it is undue, unfair, undemocratic interference. The number's the same. What else did we talk about on the programme this morning? We discovered that a warning to students about the telltale signs which could mean that they or a friend of theirs has contracted meningitis are to be printed on beer mats and distributed across the university halls and drinking holes of London in time for the start of next term. 0171 412 1152. I don't know anybody who doesn't have a reasonable grasp of the so-called telltale signs of meningitis, but I do know an awful lot of people who, if a beer mat is in town, will be thinking about anything other than sensible, intelligent health issues, because that beer mat is probably sitting between a table and their pint and them and other interesting people. So I'm not sure whether this is the kind of campaign that's likely to achieve its end results, although, of course, any move in the right direction has to be given a pat on the back. 0171 412 1152 is the number. We were unable to find time in the programme to talk, so this one comes fresh, about heart disease and the greater likelihood that a person living in the north of England, the greater chance a person living in the north of England stands of suffering a heart attack. It's something like that 90% more likely. You are 90% more likely to be prevalent to a fatal heart attack if you are a woman and you live in the north than if you live in the south. The other interesting finding in this latest piece of information is that men and women who do active jobs are twice as likely to suffer an early death from heart disease than people who do sedentary work. Now, I don't know about you, but that flies in the face of everything that we've learned so far about having a healthy heart. You need to watch what you eat, and you need to cut out or down on smoking, but you also need to be reasonably active. So wouldn't you have thought that somebody that spent their day running up and down ladders with bricks on their back or chugging a wheelbarrow around a muddy site is likely to have a slightly stronger heart, all that fresh air, all that cardiovascular exercise, than somebody who spends all day slouched over a desk in front of a glowing VDU? 0171 412 1152. That and the golf yesterday. I'll recap the arguments in just a second. If you were listening to Ian Abrahams at 7:30 and 8:30 this morning, you'll be aware that the Europeans are kicking up a little bit of a controversy over the way the Americans celebrated their victory in the Ryder Cup yesterday. And we can talk about that as well, if that's in your mind. 0171 412 1152. You're listening to the phone-in portion of this LBC breakfast. Alan is our first caller this morning from Hemel Hempstead. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you for asking. And yourself?
I'd rather not answer that question.
Understood.
It's talking about gay men in the army.
Yeah.
Or gay women in the army, for that matter.
Mm.
And I was just thinking, when you were talking about that, you tell me what you would like. I mean, I just say I don't believe actually with going around killing people. I don't like the idea at all. But if suddenly your home was being attacked by another army from somewhere in the world, would it matter to you whether there were gay men in the army?
I suppose put like that, no. But then I didn't say it would matter to me even if that weren't the scenario.
No, but because the important thing is that those people, and I tell you that I think they're very brave, to be perfectly honest, because I'm a bit of a coward myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't like to be in the situation they would be in, and like face to face with the enemy. I would be a coward in the sense that I would join the RAF, and I'd be a fighter pilot.
Do you think the RAF are cowardly compared to the army?
No, it's me personally.
No, but you did just say that the RAF is for cowards, whereas the army is for heroes.
No, me. I was talking about me personally.
Yes, okay. But you said you're a coward, and therefore you join the RAF. So.
Well, the reason is that I wouldn't be able to see the enemy face to face. So I'd be quite happy to die for my country while I'm flying around as a fighter pilot, as long as I couldn't see anybody. But the people in the army actually probably do see people face to face, and I think they're incredibly brave people.
That's I have to say, that is, to me, that is a new tenet of courage, being able to kill people whilst you're looking at them.
Well, I don't think personally. I wasn't talking about the RAF as being cowardly, by the way. Don't get me wrong by that, because I think they're incredibly brave as well. It's just that I don't think I can actually be face to face with the enemy, literally. Mm. So whether these people are gay or not, it doesn't seem to me to matter at all, because they're committed to what they're doing. I don't actually like the idea of having an army, by the way, and killing people, but I think it's probably a necessary...
Well, we don't say that we have an army in order to kill people, and that's why, of course, it's called the Ministry of Defence rather than the Ministry of Attack. We say that we have an army in order to stop other people killing our people.
Okay, well
that may be a cosmetic argument.
Okay, no, I'm prepared to accept that as well. But perhaps I didn't put that quite well. But I think anybody who goes out to defend ourselves is extremely brave, and I don't care whether they're gay or not.
No.
But I think there's an unfortunate line that could go down here. And if I can just develop the thing, what do you do with people who are gay men or gay women? Do you segregate them?
Yes.
From the rest of the people?
Very interesting question.
Or then do you segregate black people from that chain of command? I
would say the whole thing has nothing in the two notions have nothing in common at all.
No. What
they do in Sweden, where I understand that it's been permissible to be openly gay and a member of the Swedish Armed Forces for a long time.
I don't understand what the problem is.
No. Well, you just asked yourself.
I was trying to develop the theme, because what I could see happening was, because if people start developing the argument, then you go a long way down the chain, and you start taking away people, you start taking away women, you start taking away people.
That won't happen.
Taking away homosexuals.
No, that won't happen. Don't worry about that. This has to be seen in isolation. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to do that.
That won't happen.
Yes, good. Your question appeared to be: will gay men, gay soldiers, gay squaddies be sharing billets bunk by bunk?
Well, no, I didn't say that because it does.
Well, you ought to, because that's an interesting question.
Okay, well, I think it's highly unlikely that people who are gay, men or women, are going to be doing anything in their bunks. I'm pretty certain of that.
That's not the point. The question is, will squaddies accept it? Will squaddies be happy? Bearing in mind that an awful lot of squaddies probably aren't terribly educated. It's not until if you're brought up a certain way, it's not until you meet gay people and discover that they don't spend their time looking at everybody's bottoms that you really... That when you're 8 and 9 and 10 years old, probably in this day and age, certainly when I was a boy, there was an awful lot of miseducation went on in the playground and indeed on some television programs.
No,
right?
I think you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
I think that's why there is this discussion.
But there will be prejudice to begin with in the army.
I think you're absolutely right.
So what do we do about that? 0171 412 1152 is the number. What did you think of what Alan had to say there? Particularly what appeared to be his accidentally put initial point, which is that since he is a coward, somebody who could not kill, rather than join the army, he would join the RAF. 0171 412 1152. And that controversy at the Ryder Cup yesterday, if you were watching the golf, if you've heard the story, it's difficult to get away from forcing yourself to decide that the Europeans have got a very good point. American victors trampled all over the green when our Spanish star Jose Maria Olazabal was about to make a putt which could have kept us in the Ryder Cup. The Americans simply let their enthusiasm and excitement and celebratory instincts get the better of them. That's all. That is all. 0171 412 1152. And sport is the better for passion, isn't it? But then there were a few catcalls, and Monty's dad did have to go home after Monty had played the 7th hole because he couldn't stand any longer hearing people insult his son. That must have been painful. 0171 412 1152. You're listening to LBC Breakfast. It's just turned 20 past 9. And do dog whistles work? Because you still see them for sale in pet shops. And there was a chap round our way who had a dog, and he bought another younger dog which he decided to train up. And he was an old boy, and he seemed to think that the dog would naturally know what to do when it heard the dog whistle. Whereas, having worked as an animal trainer, I had to tell you, as I'm sure you know because you're intelligent, that what you do is when a dog performs a piece of behaviour which you wish it to duplicate, you give a little beep on the dog whistle, and then you give it a snack. Although not a snack, the best thing to do is to let it lick a piece of an OXO cube. That way the dog won't get fat. If you give a dog a choc drop every time it does something right, then by the time you finish training it, it's too fat to do anything. And, you can do stay, it'll stay, but that's about it. So what you do is you have in your pocket a little OXO cube still in the foil, and if ever the dog does anything right, you just take the OXO cube out and get the dog lick it, and they're daft enough to think that that's a good meal. You pop it back in your pocket, and thus the dog begins to duplicate the behaviour when it hears the dog whistle. But this man believed that the dog would just know, oh, dog whistle, I'll come. So he would stand there in the middle of the field, and if you didn't know what he was doing, he'd apparently be standing in the middle of the field going, and the dog would be going crazy in the ferns. 0171 412 1152. Not enough is known and understood about training humans. Dogs. Fred calls from Cheam. Fred, welcome to LBC.
Oh, thank you. Concerning gays in the forces, I was in the infantry during the last war, and I believe that the essential part of the army to its effectiveness is coherence and comradeship and the working together as a unit. And anything which is brought in that causes division, cliques, and so on would be highly undesirable. Now, we had one homosexual in our unit during the last war, and he was trying to coerce somebody else to become homosexual or to participate in his homosexual practices, and as a result he was immediately taken out of the unit and sent back to base. So I think in general, for all sorts of reasons, for example, one of the bases of the infantry is to dig two-man weapon slits for example, and you probably spend 2 or 3 days laying in the bottom of a trench covered over with a ground sheet. You want to be with a comrade, and you want to be with somebody of your own kind, heterosexual, rather than a gay person. I would think it would be absolutely awful. And that would cause divisiveness. And then, of course, there would be...
How long have you listened to LBC?
Well, I was just talking about gays in the forces.
I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, well, about 20 years.
Have you? Does it sound divisive?
Well, I'm talking about a fighting unit, which is quite different from a group in...
Well, how do you know that? You've never worked in radio.
And, well, it's just an educated guess.
Well, then stick to facts.
You see, and also...
But do you see the point I'm making?
No.
Why not?
Well, yes, I do see the point you're making, but I don't think it's valid.
Why not?
Well, because there are 2 different things, you see.
But how do you know that? You don't know anything about one of them.
Yeah, but you're just trying to divert me from
just trying to see whether your argument's worth listening
to.
Well, it
is, absolutely.
Then you should be able to defend a couple of simple questions.
You see, I think that a unit must not be divisive.
How many gay men lost their lives on Omaha Beach?
Well, I don't know.
About 4,000.
The point is that...
No, if I may.
The second point.
Do you know how many men died on Omaha Beach?
Well, several thousand.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wanted to make a second point.
Do you think we'd have taken Omaha Beach if we had been...
Well, it was the Americans, actually, rather than the British.
When I say we, I'm referring to the Allies. And if you want to talk about D-Day landings, that's fine by me.
I wanted to talk about gays in the forces.
And that's what we're talking about, pal, aren't we?
The point is that also, the second point is that favouritism crops up. For example, if it is all accepted, you would get an NCO.
We'll finish this conversation in just a moment, Fred. We've got to pause for the news, okay? You're listening to LBC. It's 9:30. Talking about the EU decision to deliver the verdict that Britain's ban on gays in the armed forces is illegal. We've got Fred on the line from Cheam,
yes,
who says that if you were sharing a foxhole with a gay man, it would cause a problem.
Yes, yeah. Yes, and I'd like to make another point in that quite a lot of infantry work involves carrying heavy loads, machine guns and mortars, and you take it in turns to do it. The sergeant says, so-and-so will do it today. Now, if there was a homosexual sergeant who was in love with a homosexual private, he would obviously favour him for this kind of task. And if a reconnaissance patrol was to be sent out and you've got people in authority in love with some of the people under them, they would avoid sending them on dangerous patrols.
Can I ask a couple of questions out of interest, Fred?
These sort of things.
Can I ask a couple of interests?
Yes.
Can I ask a couple of questions of you?
Yes.
Out of interest. Can you give us a sort of a thumbnail sketch of your knowledge and understanding of the way in which gay men are, what they're like, how they live,
how rest from the main point.
No, with respect, Fred. If you can't answer that question,
well, I can. Yes, I'll answer your questions then.
Fine. So in that case, it's not digressing, is it? You see, I think you're on shaky ground here because you don't know very much about gay men.
No, I know perhaps a bit about the army, which is the other side of the issue.
Well, hang on a second.
And if we've got
hang on a second. If we're talking about two things coming together, if we're talking about whether peaches go with cream, we need to know a bit about peaches, a little bit about cream. If we've never heard of cream, we're not qualified to talk about peaches and cream. We don't know much about peaches. We're on solid ground with cream. But as a combination, we need to know more. Now, I reckon you know more about the army than anybody we could have on this show right now. You are clearly an army man, and we're grateful for all that you have done in green. Well done. But, with your hand on your heart, and with your queen listening, perhaps, you can't honestly say that you know too much about how gay people are, can you?
Well, I know enough to know that if we have an organisation which is working and is efficient, then don't mess about with it by introducing diverse elements into it which would produce conflict, favouritism, and all the things that would reduce the efficiency of our fighting services. That's what I'm saying.
That's what you think will happen,
Definitely.
even though you don't know anything about.
I do know things. I've seen gays.
Where have you seen
associated
gays?
with them.
Where have you seen gays?
Well, I've seen them all over London,
Wow.
and I've seen them.
Whereabouts all over London?
I've seen them in the army as well.
Yes, you saw one, you said.
Well, in my particular unit, there were others.
As far as you know.
There were others, yes, and they were the sort of gays that were.
Is it really enough to go on?
Well, it is enough to be able to say that I wouldn't like to have to share a slit trench with a gay person for about 4 days and having to attend to all the calls of nature and so on. I would rather be with one of my comrades that was heterosexual. And
Why would that
I know that is the best way to run an army, and I don't think we should be told by these Europeans how we can degenerate our own armed forces.
Well,
I think it's quite wrong that they should try and impose this on us.
And I think your views are shameful.
Well, I don't think they are. I think they're just sensible. I mean, the liberal thinkers...
They're cruel and they're ignorant.
Not at all.
No,
I mean,
not so. Your implication is that you would suffer some sort of emotional distress if you found yourself having to answer the call of nature in a foxhole with a homosexual soldier. Whereas the truth of the matter is, the cruelty that person has undoubtedly suffered in the 10 or 15 years before they found themselves enjoying the dubious pleasure of sharing a foxhole with you amounts to a Russian war memorial. Amounts to an almost life sentence of misery. Because, if I may finish,
not emotional.
If I may finish, because of your ignorance and your cruelty and your prejudice. So, I think that you, as a thinking, inquiring person, I think that you have some work to do. I think you have to go and find a gay pub in Cheam and have a half there this lunchtime.
No, I think that you ought to share a foxhole with a gay person in Burma and see...
Why Burma?
Well, that's where I happen to be. But that would be fine. I wouldn't mind. Speak with some authority on the subject.
I wouldn't mind. I'd be very happy to do.
I'm sure you would. But
I find gay people broad-minded, charming, and intelligent, and very generous.
Yes, absolutely. But then you see, there is a feeling that they will try and involve one in their own unfortunate sexual practices.
That's wrong.
Which they do.
No, that's wrong.
It isn't wrong.
That's wrong. That's completely wrong.
You're saying it's wrong.
Yes, I am.
I'm not saying it.
Yes, I am. I will say that before you and my God.
What do you think?
On the life of my hamster.
Do you think they do not try to influence other people into their practices? Do you think that?
I know that.
Oh, well, I'm
absolutely certain.
Your knowledge is very limited.
No, my knowledge is, of course, much greater than yours. We've established that.
No, we have.
Yes, we have.
You've established it.
Yes, we have. You said you did. You said that.
Naturally, you would be self-opinionated on the subject.
Well,
there you are.
Well, you see, your view goes nowhere.
No, my view is.
I'm batting on behalf of the future. This is where my
batting on behalf of the homosexuals.
No, wrong. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. If I may, I'm batting.
May I say something?
Well, no, because you're putting words into my mouth.
I'm trying to put my point of view.
Well, be quiet and listen for a second.
Yeah, I'll listen.
And then you can say something ignorant. I'm batting on behalf of the future.
Yes.
Not what you said.
Well, you're batting on behalf of the future of a partial homosexual army.
No, you can't finish my sentences for me, pal. I tend to do that rather well.
All right.
Yeah. Now your turn. What are you trying to achieve?
I'm just saying that you're looking at...
What are you trying to achieve?
Well, I'm trying to put the point of view that this is a disastrous, illogical and impractical thing that is trying to be foisted on us by the Europeans.
So where are we moved to? Where are we moved to? If we what are you where are you taking this? Where are we moving to?
Well,
if we go down your road?
The status quo as far as the armed forces are concerned, which is efficient and capable of repelling an attack on our country, and anything we do to weaken it, decreed by the liberal thinkers, is going to be to our detriment.
Well, there are some things worth fighting for and some things worth dying for, aren't there?
I want to fight for homosexual...
I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. He wouldn't want to fight for homosexual man. So there we are. There we have one of our servicemen who saw time in Burma fighting on behalf of heterosexuals everywhere. 0171412 1152. LBC Breakfast. Find David from Harlow.
Oh, morning, Tommy.
Morning.
I like your historical facts. You stated 2,000 homosexuals were killed on Omaha Beach at D-Day.
I don't think I did,
Oh,
actually.
yes, you did. Now, come on. You know darn well that you stated that 2,000 homosexuals were killed on Omaha Beach. Now, this is one of your bits of disinformation, because there was only 3,000 people killed on Omaha Beach. I have the facts before me.
Yeah.
Just a moment,
How many of them were homosexual then?
well, this is you, isn't it? You're saying 2,000.
Yes.
In those days, if you had been around, homosexuality was something that people didn't talk about. And they didn't go around examining the bodies afterwards and saying, oh, this one must have been a homosexual.
Well, how would that have worked?
Yeah, you tell me how it would work.
No, you tell me how it would
When
have
you make a statement, and this is something that goes through LBC, you spread a lot of disinformation, and this is it. There was nothing like 2,000 homosexuals.
You can't say that.
On Omaha Beach.
I'm sorry.
You listen for a change.
You can't say that. You can't say
let
that.
people finish their sentences.
Well,
and
I won't let anything get past me if it is nothing more or less than ignorant, cruel, vicious, slanderous lies. And one of the things that people like you like to do is lie, tell absolute untruths,
that is the sort of disinformation that comes from your program.
vicious. Gone, but he didn't slam the phone down very well, and I think this is. Get him back and let him. Could you get David back? I want him to slam. Lucy, pay attention to the presenter. Could you get David back? We want to show him to slam. Get him back. You want him to slam the phone down properly. I will not have that. If people want to have a tirade, that's fine. But you've got to slam the phone down properly. Anwar calls from Chiswick. Anwar, welcome to LBC.
Good morning, Tommy.
Morning.
Tommy, first of all, with my own views, gays and lesbians, whatever, is their private business. But according to my own view, it's unnatural, unhealthy, and perversive act. Let me give you my experience. First of all, when you all compare gays and lesbians for equivalent to ethnic minority, if I'm a dark color, it's not my fault, yeah? So saying that gays and lesbian and ethnic minority is equal, yeah? Now
you're kind of losing us a little bit here.
No.
No, you are losing us. You might understand what you mean, but I didn't get that last bit.
which one?
Well, the last bit.
Well, when gays and lesbians...
If I got it, I'd be able to repeat it to you.
Yeah, okay. Now, let me give you my experience. When the experimental age for the children from 10 to 14, whether it's the cornfields of Asia, Africa, or comfortable houses in Europe, young boys make mistakes. Okay? Now, my experience started in Yorkshire in 1964, This chap, Pakistani, was in late 30s, I was early 20s. And what happened, we respected him because he was older than us. He was living about 2 miles from the area. My roommate was away in Birmingham. We had no problems. But that guy said, can I sleep here? I said, sure. So he slept on the spare bed. I was sleeping, and suddenly I couldn't believe it. The same guy was trying to play with my private part, And I told him...
Yeah, if I may, this is very big in your life, but not big enough for this issue.
No, this issue about armed forces, I haven't been in armed forces, so I wouldn't comment whether they should join the armed forces or not.
Fine.
But they should keep it as a private affair.
Quite.
It's a habit, it's got nothing to do with genetics, it's got nothing to do with genes, because if a person is in his genes, he had this one, his parents, if they're normal, so it couldn't be in his genes. That's one thing. I mean, when this research been made, it's not made by the heterosexual,
Oh, God, honestly. Have you got the vote? Are you allowed to vote?
Yes.
I'm frightened.
Why? What I done wrong?
What a load of old nonsense.
No, come on, Tommy.
Do you know,
You've got to take it. I mean, I won't slam phone on you if you even insult me. I know you don't insult people. I know you very well.
Did you know that it is possible for a homosexual man to have a baby?
It is possible, yes.
Did you know that?
I know that.
You did know that?
Of course.
And did you know that it's possible for a lesbian woman to have a baby?
Of course.
Okay. All right.
Of course I do.
Okay. Do you suppose it's ever happened?
Pardon? Yeah.
It has happened.
It does happen, yeah.
It does happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So where does that leave your argument about it not being genetically possible? Which, of course, it isn't. You're quite right there. Your conclusion is quite right.
Yeah.
I'm sure the world of science would agree.
I'm listening.
But your thinking is preposterous.
No, Tommy, I'm not narrow-minded. Listen,
Nobody's saying you are, but you're not a geneticist, are you?
Because the music industry and in the media, there are certain gays in high positions, so they want to dominate the other world. All I'm saying to you is a act of sodomy, and whether you like it or not, it's
go away.
Come on.
David in Stanmore. It's tedious sometimes. You should try this for a living.
Great amusement, actually. But
David.
Yeah, hello?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Right, just a quickie. Basically, when I was in the Navy, I was in there for 16 years. I was in a mess when there was 140 of us. And when there are times, I can only talk about the Navy because that's the only experience I've had. And I know even at the best of times, you can get under terrific... have terrific problems being away from home and that sort of thing. And the slightest thing can aggravate people, especially when they've got many of them in a mess, okay? Now, my thing is that if we did have to shower a lot and that sort of thing, or every day in very close proximity, I could only say that if there were anybody that was slightly different, it could cause problems. It doesn't matter what laws there are, Evelyn. If someone is different, it can cause aggravation. And under extreme circumstances, even if a gentleman, perfectly good, fantastic at his job, he might not mean anything, but people would be possibly oversensitive to him, and that is all I can say, is that there could possibly be potential problems. Can you understand that?
You've been in the Navy.
Yeah.
What did Nelson say about the Navy?
Look,
I mean, what made our Navy great? Was it the Jews in the Navy? Did he say it was the Talmud and the lash? No.
No, you're getting...
Was it? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Was it the Asians in the Navy? Did he say what made the British Navy great is the Taj Mahal and the lash? Did he? He knows.
What's got to do with my point?
My point is that it's homosexual men in the Navy who made the Navy great, and Nelson said that, not me.
Look, people can do a great job, and it doesn't matter what sexual persuasion. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't make any difference. You can be fantastic, your job doesn't matter. But all I'm saying, the point is, when you're in very, very close proximity, you're putting additional problems. And only thing I can say is, why bring extra problems when it's not necessary?
Because it's been there since before we had a Navy.
You're 100% right.
Paul calls from Tottenham. Paul, you're on LBC, quick.
Oh, hello, Tommy.
Oh.
I'm actually 29. I'm hoping to begin a career in the military. I happen to be heterosexual, but I did have a cousin who quite tragically died of AIDS, and he was gay, who incidentally was a civilian but did work for the military in Germany. He was actually an aerobics teacher. But the point I was making was about the World War II on D-Day. As far as I understand, because I've read a little bit about World War II, Vietnam, various wars.
You need an awful lot more if you're going to spend your life in the army, but anyway.
Sure. I don't understand there was about 10,000 casualties on D-Day. Are you saying the Americans had a policy of putting gay men in the front line, so therefore gay men suffered a higher casualty rate than sort of heterosexuals? Is that what you're saying? No,
I'm not saying that. Although you raise an interesting point, because the caliber of the man that was sent out to the beaches of Normandy.
Yeah.
Has been re-examined in recent times. There's been a spotlight on this, hasn't there? What with in the wake of Saving Private Ryan.
Sure.
And there is a feeling that there is a feeling amongst some that the caliber of the highest caliber of trained soldier were either parachuted in behind lines early or saved back for the second wave.
Right.
But no. I mean, the only point I was trying to make was that, and this is a very important point, is that gay and heterosexual people have, in the same proportion, made the same contribution to the good and evil of mankind since time immemorial. It's just that now we've improved things to the point where we're able to understand what it's like to be other people, and we have to keep that momentum going. It's 5 to 10. Tim Crook is here this morning for Steve Allen. Tim, how are you?
I'm extremely well, thank you very much, Tommy. Between 10 and 11, open line. We continue the debate on the European Court of Human Rights ruling, the MOD ban on homosexual service personnel is a breach of human rights. Your reaction, please. Should this country ignore the ruling? Are you a former service person who had to leave the Army, Navy or Air Force? What are your nominations for the scariest road in London? A pedestrian pressure group is asking for nominations for the most terrifying long road to sprint across? And who would you invite to your Millennium Party? If I gave you this guest list, could you guess who the party host is? This person invited Friar Tuck, Agatha Christie, and Basil Brush. We'll also be reviewing the best, the worst, and the most mediocre of British television between 11 and 12, and between 12 and 1. It's the Health Hour with Dr. Hilary Jones. Very much look forward to your company, the babbling crook from Babylonia.
Yeah, I was thinking, the great thing about London roads is that most of them are so congested, they're quite easy to zigzag across, aren't they? It's when you get the other side of the M25 you go.
Try High Pod Corner.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.